We are live. Jason McCarthy, welcome to the Future of Fitness.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Like I was just describing to you, I've been a fan of GoRuck, I think, since I was in a tiny little 800 square foot spot in my gym back in '09. We just kind of came across GoRuck as a brand and a community. Like, this is cool. We should get involved in this, and we affiliated with you. And man, since whatever your inception, I think it was '08, how far GoRuck has come as a brand, as a community, as a business. It's kudos. Well done. So I'm excited to highlight you here and get into that story a little bit. So let's start with this, Jason. Give us a little bit of your origin story into how GoRuck got started, your background, and then we'll just see where that takes us.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I joined the Army after 9/11 because of 9/11. I was just after graduation from college. And, you're 22, you're supposed to have everything figured out. And I had nothing figured out. I wanted to do something special with my life, but I didn't. I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do. And 9/11 provided a moment of just absolute clarity to me. I say absolute clarity, but it still took me another two something years to actually enlist in a time of war, and went through all sorts of crazy fun training. It doesn't have to be fun to be fun, right? Crazy fun training. I learned the way of the ruck in special forces training, where rucking is just the foundation of everything that you end up doing. You're just carrying weight long distances by yourself with others. They stack on tactics. They make it more complicated because you have to, but at its essence, you have to be able to just move weight and don't be late, light, or last. And I was doing that at the same time that my wife was in the CIA. So she was posted to West Africa when I was in Iraq, and I was in different part of West Africa. It was pretty crazy, right? In a way that we didn't even realize at the time, crazy, and got a couple good stories out of it, I suppose. But one of them is GoRuck that came out of it. So I was visiting her in war-torn West Africa just after having been to war in Iraq with my team, and I just kind of did what I knew and built her a go bag, or what we would colloquially call a GoRuck, where, hey, here's some stuff. Put the stuff in it and have it with you in your car, at your house, at the embassy, whatever the case may be. And that was really at its core, that was taking the special forces way of life, the special forces mindset, and applying it to more than just special forces dudes, if you will. And so that sentiment has sort of endured, and it led me down a path of, go put an ad in Craigslist, New York City, for a backpack designer because I didn't really like the bag that I was repurposing for her use. And how hard can this be? All these terrible questions, right? That if I knew the actual answer, never would have started down the path. But that's where life magic and mystery comes to benefit us sometimes in our naivete. And so, focused on the gear first, and kind of that was 2.5 years out to, say, 2010. And then at that point, I had some gear. Nobody wanted to buy it. I drove around to 48 state, went to small men's stores and other retail centers all around the country, drove around with my dog and a couple other people. The people didn't last as well as the dog, I'll say, other than me. And, so tale for another day. And, but at the end of it, it's like, man, this plan is working. So came up with an event called the GoRuck Challenge, which was like Fight Club with backpacks. Hey, meet me on the street corner at 1 a.m. Details not forthcoming. You'd show up, I'd issue you a ruck and a slab of bricks or a paver wrapped in a hotel towel that I stole from some hotel that I probably didn't even pay to sleep at, but crashed their breakfast buffet or whatever I could scrounge. I didn't have any money for anything, And, those are the places that I go and pay full price at now.
Yeah, full
Um,
circle.
Yeah. But, it was just, and that was the genesis of anything that we've done. Was we brought people together and we had this great experience. And I didn't really have a business model, even though I was in business school. I didn't really have I didn't have a one that I gave a shit about, frankly. It was more, hey, I really believe in this, bring people together, do hard stuff. And we just kept stacking gear against that. You got to figure out operations and finance and all that stuff. But at its core, still, it's this very pure thing, company, movement, experience, revolution, dare I say, where it's about bringing people together first and foremost. And the ruck is just the means to that end.
Yeah, I love it. There's a lot to unpack there. I think the one of the things I want to get you to expand on is the special forces mindset. Uh, large majority of people out there listening to this show have not been in special forces, right? So how do you describe that mindset?
Well, it's important, I think, sometimes to kind of look at the landscape, what people have seen or what they might know. And a lot of people would say SEALs and Delta Force and British SAS and Army Special Forces and Rangers. And you hear all of these kinds of phrases. Where I came from was Army Special Forces. And anytime we talk about this, it's important for me from the outset to state what I owe, which is everything. I owe my life to the guys that trained me. I owe my life to the guys that fought with me. And I owe my future to kind of preserving and paying forward the lessons that I learned from them. So the question becomes, how can such an experience have such an impact? And I was thinking I was going to join the Army and sort of check box, like they did in World War II, or, they went over, they fought, and they all came home in the same boat. And like they went to do other stuff in life. And I didn't realize the full picture that you always pay that forward for the rest of your days. So the important thing about Army Special Forces, though, to kind of differentiate is we really don't do unilateral operations, meaning it's not just Green Berets, which is synonymous with Army Special Forces, going and after a bad guy, right? There's other units that do that. The SEALs famously got in their super secret helicopters and went and got bin Laden by themselves, unilateral operations. It's a very, I won't say easy, but the easier part about doing unilateral operations is that you train and you fight all together. You know exactly how you're all the same to some extent, right? Like you will die for the guy next to you all the time and he will die for you. The difference with the Green Berets, which it's just a different complexity, a different challenge, not to take anything away from anybody else. Our mission that we work by with and through partner forces. So we go in and we work with local police forces from that country or local Afghan, local Iraqi, and we train the trainer. We work by with and through them. So if we're going after bad guys, they're the first ones in the door. We send them in to go and deal with the problem that's in their country. And yes, there's sometimes there's a big house and you end up going in the door first, but the goal is to train them and to be communal with them. And so that becomes an extension of our community. The community of a Green Beret is a 12-man. And this is, when I boil down the Special Forces way of life, it comes back to this small team and you care about each other. You spend time together, you get to know each other. This is all in the real world. You train together, meaning physical fitness. You do tactical training together. You jump out of airplanes together. You ruck together. You run together. You lift together. You eat lunch together. You have parties for your kids together on the weekend. Your families know each other. You care about each other. That strengthens the bond. And it's this pure definition of how a community should operate to me. And then you branch that out and you say, okay, well, even though I hate the team next to me, right, they're okay, right? In the grand scheme of things, right? And because they have their community, and then you're part of a larger community. And this is how America is at our best. You've got, your neighbors. Like good fences might make good neighbors, but so do good neighbors. And so you have this idea of, okay, well, I'm around these people. Let's do something that benefits all of us. And then spread that out, and you've got a great community, city, state, country, right? So inside of all of that, though, that's kind of some of the kumbaya side of all this, which I think is vital, frankly. But to be a great teammate, you first have to be a great individual. And so you have to be absolutely dedicated to the relentless pursuit of excellence in everything that you do. Good is not good enough. There's no room for kind of half measures. There's no room for compromising ideals. There's just no room for that. The team and the regiment can't function if that creeps in. And so, you're just committed to something that's about a lot more than you. And you prove yourself to be a great individual. And then importantly, and this is an important step, it's a conscious step, you have to submit yourself to the team. And once you do that, you're unstoppable. Once everybody is in that same boat, you're unstoppable. And that's the beautiful part about taking that, which just it's right here in my heart, and then giving that out to the world. It turns GORUCK into my love letter to the world and the way that we view this. And it all emanates from the Special Forces way of life.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That was really, that was very eloquent. description of what you mean by, special forces mindset. A question of curiosity. When you started the Navy or you started in the Army, sorry, Army.
Do 20
Then
burpees, bro.
yeah, right. I will right after this. I promise. Maybe you became a Green Beret, right? So in that journey from enrollment to Green Beret, was there ever a point where you're like, okay, this is the target? Like I have a friend, Dave Silverman, high school teammate. He knew. I remember him reading like our junior year in high school. He was read SEAL Team 6, right? He's like, I'm going to be a SEAL. Like that was it. Singularly focused, did it, worked way up the ranks. When did you think like, okay, maybe I'm going to be a Green Beret? Like when did that happen in your journey?
So I backed into it. So the first KIA in the post 9/11 world, the war in Afghanistan, was a guy named Johnny Mike Spann. He was in the paramilitary branch of the CIA, and there were a lot of publicity of his death. There was a prison uprising. If you remember, John Walker Lind it was the American that was like part of it was all sorts of messed up, but he died in that. And Mike Spann did. John Walker Lind would later go to jail, but Mike Spann died in that. And I remember there was a lot of press around it. And, it put a face to the sacrifice and to what is being asked of people in the name of our country and what we hold dear and the values. And I just felt like I needed to do my part. So I went through the whole CIA track, the interview process and all of that. And, I didn't know anything, man. I was totally naive. And so I came to find out eventually, a year into the interview process there, that there was this guy in the process, and they're just great people that work there. And he was like, look, we just don't train up our paramilitary branch. You have to go to special forces or something, and then you come over here. And I was like, damn, all right. So let me giddy back up on a different horse and figure that out. And even then it was, I graduated from college and, I should quote, quote, be an officer. And so I went down that path. And so many people were going after so few spots that it kind of turned into the wars were passing me by. It was late 2003. The war in Iraq, which is kind of a confusing time for me, but the war in Iraq had kicked off. And it just seemed like it was all passing me by while I was just sitting there on the sidelines. And I just wasn't comfortable with that anymore. So I looked at a couple of the places, the SEALs, all the branches, and the Army had the most kind of attractive offer in terms of I could go straight from the street to special forces training. The only catch was I had to just keep passing everything, which most people end up not doing. That was something that at the time I didn't want to talk about what most people don't do. I just wanted to kind of get my shot at the title and see if I had what it took.
Yeah. Interesting, man. GoRuck, so now you started in '08, right? So it's been 16 years you've been doing this business. In its current iteration, like what are the legs of the business? I mean, I know you have apparel, right? You have events. Like, yeah, give us the full scope of what GoRuck is today.
I mean, big goal, rucking will be bigger than running. Carry weight on your back, that will be bigger. And I can list you out a bunch of reasons. We could spend hours talking about why that's so good for you, right? And it's at the end of the day, it's a kind of a new fitness category, but we're not inventing anything. So this has gone on since hunter-gatherer days, all the way through the militaries of antiquity. It was a test for the Roman legion. It's been proven throughout Special Operation 22 SAS out of Britain that ported that over to the US. It's the foundation of infantry training. It's been this kind of carrying weight on your back as a form of fitness and a way to prove yourself has been going on forever. We're just kind of tapping into it and also saying 10, 20 pounds in your neighborhood, that's also rucking. And, that's kind of part of my mission of paying forward I think to have served in the military and to now be a veteran, I feel compelled to break outside of just that realm, even though veterans are near and dear to my heart. And if we love to support veteran causes and we do, and we have, I think we're also trained and capable of serving a broader mission inside of America when it comes down to physical fitness and community building and all the things that I was taught while I was in the military. So rucking being kind of where we naturally started, but on the the business side, we started out with gear, right? So gear means rucksacks that morphed into sort of sandbags, carry that weight type stuff, right? And train in the same dirt field, the way of life that I used to train when I was in the Q course, which, was how we did CrossFit in a dirt field. And, we had boots on and big bag, big backpacks and pull-up bars and makeshift sandbags. That's how we did, quote CrossFit at the time. The business though, rucksacks is where we've really kind of driven the marketplace, because while shoes may be the most important part of rucking, if you really get into it, you can't ruck without carrying something. And that's been what we started out with. The first marriage that we made was with the event side. So bring people together, 1 a.m., detailed not forthcoming, fight club with backpack, the team event, follow me type stuff. And so in the early days, it was ruck and it was events. And the money from the event side was completely propping up my ability to order gear that would eventually come. It was this kind of a bit of a house of cards, unless you're playing it like we played it, where it was a bad business model, but it was kind of financing a good business model. I think event businesses are basically terrible businesses. And if you're out there, I hope that you want to start a rucking events business. I think all event businesses are bad, but anyway, we've used it to kind of really double down on people and community building. And it also got us out there. The events are what kind of helped us break through from 0 to 1. And then that we were able to sort of more monetize, because people found out about GoRuck, and we happen to build really great gear that's durable, that has a lifetime guarantee as well. Right. So without the sort of commercial attached to any of this, like I'm just trying to give a little bit more of the background to say that rucksacks have financed and been the main driver. And then, I don't know, we started getting some inquiries from other companies to kind of partner here, partner there. And we kept running into problems with other businesses where a normal company would be able to go to an apparel provider and say, hey, let's partner on this. And nobody wanted to touch us because we could actually build gear. So if someone made a backpack, they were completely unwilling to work with us. So I was like, all right, fine, we'll build our own apparel. So we found this apparel shop in Spokane, Washington. It's one of the best performance apparel shops in America. There are not that many, but the ones that have remained are really, really good. And so that's been a great relationship for about a decade. Not extremely scalable to do all your manufacturing in America. So we've kind of taken to a hybrid approach on that front. And, America remains our quality kind of control and development and some scale. And then we're able to kind of scale broader units abroad. Shoes is an interesting one, for us. I think we got into it 2017, I want to say, something around that. So it's been a minute, and we were in talks with Reebok about working with them on the event side of the business, and them getting behind rucking and kind of doing what they had done for CrossFit, Spartan Race, and some others. And it ended up just kind of, there were some great people that were there. It just ended up not being a good fit for us at the time. But we kind of got this idea of footwear. We'd kind of started to go down that path. And eventually the guy that was running the Advanced Concept Group, who we had started to work with, his name was Paul Litfield. And he had been at Reebok for 30 years, and he's one of us. I mean, he's just his nose is crooked sideways. He's got his thick Boston accent. He plays hockey. He's like, I was throwing gloves with someone 30 years younger than me this morning because that's what he wanted. It's like, did he want that, Paul? Or maybe you did? I don't know. He used to be a power lifter, and, anyway, he'd done a bunch of GoRuck events, and we just became buddies. And those are the fun people to work with. And, he also did things like invent the Reebok pump, and he designed shoes that have sold over 1 billion pairs with a B. And so he knows what he's doing, which also means he knows he has factory relationships. You can get in a good factory. It's a little bit like Goodfellas, when he's talking about how do you get the best ingredients at your restaurant. Like, you got to know the people when the stuff comes into the port. You got to do all this stuff. If you're at the front of the line, then you're going to get better ingredients to make a better product. And footwear is no different. If you're just small and starting out, nobody wants your business. And that's kind of across the board. Nobody wants your business because you're probably going to go out of business. And these places are spending a lot of time to kind of start any relationship or learn your product. And then how many do you want again? Oh, you want 100? Like, nothing for me if I'm a factory. Like, you want 10,000 this year? Okay, maybe we'll talk. Well, when you start saying 10,000 units, like, you have the cash for that. So that's where, we've been able to kind of thread the needle with a lot of this, because we've never taken any outside investment and only minimal inside outside of what my wife and I put out of our sort of deployments and stuff. And so footwear kind of puts on a trajectory that's a little bit different. They kind of rounded out the head to toe. So you've got footwear, which is a hugely growing segment inside of the business. Apparel, we've just started to scale overseas. So that's starting to grow, not as quickly as footwear, just because we've had footwear more scalable from the thing that we launched. And then gear remains the spot that everybody knows us for, absolutely. And then we're having to kind of educate people that we took the same magic thought of testing and proving and why to the footwear that we did to the gear. And that's hard. No matter what you do, that's hard. So, and then events, we still put on, 400 events a year all over the world. And that's a fraction of what we used to do. So it feels a little bit, sometimes it's a little sad. Come on, people, don't you want to show up and do hard stuff? But we've also kind of decentralized a lot of the activity to Ruck Club and Ruck Club leaders who are out there in cities all over the country and the world, and said, hey, organize your people in your driveway. You don't owe us anything. Just please do it, right? It's good for you. It's good for them. And there's the social connectivity and all the values that we hold dear are sort of expressed through that. And ever since COVID, I think all or most event companies had kind of revisit their assumptions and kind of figure out how to reinvent themselves. And we're fortunate that our business is not dependent upon the economics of just the events business.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I can say that most people I know who have an active lifestyle, the GoRuck pack, the backpack is core. Like everybody has one, what you have, and it needs to kind of be in your, like, it just needs to be part of your gear if you do a lot of stuff. I mean, I've had multiple ones and they hold up forever. I just recently got a pair of your guys' shoes. I love them. I've gone through a lot of trainers. As you know, I own a CrossFit gym. I've gone through a lot of different shoes. I used to sell shoes. A lot of them, very high quality, well done. So I encourage people to, like, just pick up you only need one GoRuck pack, and you'll have it for life, but you should have one. And the events are really, there's something, man. I mean, as I told you in a different conversation, like Jala Shah is a dear friend of mine. She works with you guys. She's gone through the kind of the big bad mother of all the events, the selection. I actually coached her for 4 out of 6 of them. And that was, just getting to know how challenging those events are. I mean, coach her through, I was like, man, I can't believe I'm writing some of this programming out and, she's going to do it. And it was, kind of a balance of like, don't try everything you can not to let her go into the event broken from training. But then again, you have to be pushed so hard that you can mentally go through that. Maybe talk about that event, because that's really something of what the selection is. And then, give us kind of a cascade of events that go down from there.
Well, I'll frame this and say we have this event. It's the only event we run where we try to get people to quit. We've put on 10,000 events to date, over 10,000. And we put on, gosh, it's 2024. It's this weird thing where we've now put on, this is the 25th version of GoRuck Selection. I mean, 25 times we will have done this as of this year, right? This event is not the same as all the others, where we try to do everything we can to make sure that you finish. We put everything from 5Ks to 26.2s to 50 milers to, 2 to 3 hour workout style event. And those are all very accessible and very doable based upon where you are. There is this other event that we call GoRuck Selection that is not accessible. And I do not recommend that you sign up. And I'm very conflicted about this event, mostly because it drags up some, to be the cadre, the one kind of enforcing the standard at this event, like it is methodically ruthless to a standard. And most or a lot of the classes, nobody finishes. So the pass rate is sub 1%. It's 48 hours. You'll have 45 pounds on your back just to start. And then, later on in the event, you'll have 120 pound sandbag back on top of that for periods, or an 80-pound sandbag, or, you'll end up doing, 3 hours of get-ups with a pack on your back at hour 30 in the event. Who knows, right? You don't know, that's for sure. And so, the arc of the event that is largely, a lot of people show up, and by the first morning, there's 2 or 3 left. And at the 24 mark, there's 1 or 2 people left. And by the end, there's 0 or 1 left. And it's just, you have, by the end of it, you've got 6 or 7 or 8 special forces cadre I mean, making sure that you're doing what you're expected to do. And so it's, well, how do you know what people are capable of? It's like, that's the subjectivity of it. It's so unfair that it's fair. We can look into your eyes. We can look into your soul. I mean, winning is the standard, right? And so if you start to give up, we start to push harder. If we can sense it, we can just smell it. And so at the outset, it's pretty simple because there's a lot of people. And then, once people start to realize that they undertrained or that the person next to them is doing better, then they start to play all the games in their head about, I should have done this and I should have done that. And that just seeps in and then you're done, right? It's just a matter of time. And you're just waiting for kind of the people who have really, really trained for this well and have a certain mental aptitude for it, or mental attitude for it, I should say, that can pass. And when I say mental attitude, I don't mean that to be just, hey, if you have this, you're a better person. I mean, it takes a certain kind of person that's not always that great in order to pass this kind of an event. Like, you have to have almost unflappable, it's usually people that have low emotional intelligence, or, they're just kind of flatline in times of chaos. Like, they're able to stay really, really calm. And you don't get a lot of people that get freaked out. You don't get, or any, it's kind of the same type of person that makes it through the Q course, where all of a sudden you get all of this energy and all of this kind of adrenaline dumps, and you're forced to perform. And then, can you still recover? What happens when that wears off? And then you have to keep going, and you have to keep picking yourself up against no matter what the cadre say, because it's never going to be planned for you. You're just at the mercy of the plan. And we've got the plan down. I mean, we've run so many of these now, it's like clockwork, and you can just, we've almost, and I said almost, that's why you play the game. Not rigged. We've almost gotten to the point where we can walk around the beginning of the event and look into people's eyes and know who's got any shot at all. But that's why you play the game. Every once in a while you get surprised.
Yeah. Wow. Jason, the word community is thrown around rather loosely nowadays. I think, in the fitness and wellness side of things, and, obviously the last 4 years have changed so much as far as people's health, how people are connecting. People work from home. Like, I work from home, but I have to find ways to get out and do things with my friends and community and socialize and, have those connections. I feel like if there's above all things that GoRuck offers, it offers healthy community activities that build stronger bonds, friendships, relationships, all under, the umbrella of doing somewhat challenging to very challenging things together. And I feel like that's missing quite a bit in kind of our modern society. It's just one man talking, but I want to get your thoughts on, like, how critical is what GoRuck is doing to, for really the health of our nation, mentally, emotionally, physically, and how do you see you guys playing a part in that?
Well, my personal journey is that, when I was getting out of the Army, I was like, man, I'm not going to do any of that Army stuff anymore. Not for me, because there's this kind of revolt against the details that are let come. The waking up at dark 30, the PT, that the physical training that maybe I didn't want to do. I want to do only the stuff I want to do. Right? And part of that is just a reaction to something that is kind of, you're forced into it. And the interesting thing that I came to find out pretty quickly was that, the great parts about the Army are the camaraderie and the people and the time that you get to spend with them. And physical fitness is just foundational to all of it. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you go meet your team and you do PT together. Pretty simple. You take it for granted until it's ripped away. On the weekends, we meet in my driveway every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Anybody's welcome, right? We work out for 30 minutes or an hour-ish, right? You can do it slick, so no body weight or no added weight. You can do it with 20 pounds. You can do it with 100 pounds. Nobody cares. It's kind of show up and do what you're capable of. You got kids doing it. You got, 75-year-olds doing it sometimes, right? When we're done, we drink some beers and talk about the world. And these are my friends. And these are people in our community that I look forward to seeing at You know, when we bike our kids to school, I see them at drop off. When we're, at the coffee shop, you see them and you end up talking to them. When you're at Public, the grocery store, it's like, these are the people that I run into. It's like, hey, what's going on? You know something about their life and they know something about yours. And while that's not the same as fighting a war in a faraway land with somebody, it replicates what and who we are. And 100% of people, here's a fun stat for you. 100% of people come from hunter-gatherers, right? 100% of hunter-gatherers were tribal in nature. They lived together, they fought together, they shared things. There was sacrifice for each other. And that is core to who we are and to what we need. And I don't mean need like, I need my Amazon package to show up today or else I'm going to have a breakdown. I mean, need deep inside of the Maslow's hierarchy of need, right? Is this sense of belonging. And my take on language matters. It's important to read books. It's important to get smart. It's important to understand how other people use language that might impact or affect conversations and affect them negatively. Because just because someone keeps calling their thing a community doesn't mean that it is, right? So when I hear things like the Facebook community or the Reddit community, or pick your online forum, because it's a forum if it's exclusively online, it's not a community. A community is about people coming together in the real world. That is an absolute definition. For me, it must be in the real world. And then there are levels of that, right? I personally think that physical fitness is the single greatest way to build community across a broad array of people. I've seen it through just physical fitness in my driveway. I've seen it in the Army where nobody cares who you voted for. Nobody cares if you're black or white or pink or purple or Democrat or Republican or gay or straight or whatever, right? It's like, you're just there together. You get to know the people. You spend time with them in the real world. It humanizes them. And you are humanized to them. And that becomes this foundational thing for having real world conversations instead of, going on Facebook where you learn how to play Crush Candy and hate your friends. That's not community. That is not a community at all. That just makes us angry and makes us divided. And so coming together with people in the real world with the purpose of getting healthier. And frankly, I don't really like strength. I love to be on my feet, bike. I love to swim. I love to rock. I used to love to run, all those kinds of things, right? I love all those. Pick up heavy stuff, move heavy stuff. Well, it doesn't have to be fun to be fun. That's an important one, but it's not my go-to. Yet, you get into, okay, well, it's also healthy and I probably should do it, but that doesn't mean I want to do it. And I don't do it by myself. I do it because I have the accountability of the people in my neighborhood that I look forward to seeing on the weekend. And that's really important to me, to see them and hang out with them and be an active part of our community. And so, what we're doing at GoRuck is we're living the life. And, if it's not for you, maybe it will be someday. And if more people find out about this or more people get invited by their friends, then better, maybe all the better. Maybe someday you will show up and join them in their driveway or whatever the case may be. But we can't sit here and, just preach at people all day long and say like, you got to do hard stuff or else, or fear mongering or all that stuff. It just doesn't really work. I think the important part is to meet people kind of where they are and live a life that encourages them to join you. And for us, it's just maintaining a lot of accessibility to that. And sometimes it's less accessible. Like, I don't know, some of the events that we put on are not very accessible. And that's okay. 24-hour event, no sleep, lots of weight, right? Some people need that, including me. Some people need that. But by and large, the scale of things is, you're a stranger here but once. We've got stuff you can borrow. And if you want to do it with body weight, just come join us. See what it's all about.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I reflect on my life and the strongest bonds I have with friends, even, you'd say my wife, it's, they've always become stronger or really solidified during times of shared discomfort, borderline suffering, right? Now, I'm not going to be the guy to be like, hey, you got to go out and like do incredibly hard things like 20, like you're talking about, like a 24-hour fitness challenge with no sleep. Like you can, that's there for you. I mean, that's, anybody can give that a shot. But even like somebody who, maybe, walking their first 5K is very, there's a lot of discomfort in that, right? If you're doing it with somebody else and it kind of breaks down the barriers of what Jason does for a living, how much money he makes, what neighborhood he lives in, right? Like it just breaks down to this basic human component where it allows people to really bond. I mean, the strongest bonds I've had are people like I played water polo with in high school because we had one of the hardest, most successful
Mhm.
coaches in the country of any sport. And it was just brutal, right? And then, stuff like CrossFit, like you would look at the end of a CrossFit class, people can say what they want, but when people are kind of laid out on the ground, sweating, right, huffing and puffing, they're exhausted. You look around the room, you're like, I just bonded with these people. I don't care if, he's a Wall Street guy or she's a dentist or whatever. It doesn't matter anymore, right? It just breaks that down. I think having that physical exertion in a group is just critical to build really healthy bonds, which we all know now, with the mental uh, health crisis that we have in this country, that people need connection. And one of the things that you mentioned in a conversation we had preparing for this is, social fitness, right? Which I think is a really good name for the category. So when you say social fitness, Jason, like maybe describe what exactly it is that you mean by that.
Well, social fitness is just fitness that you do socially with other people, right? Which is also core way to build community, right? I mean, a community is two or more, right? And in times of need, it can be you and your damn dog, right? I've been there, and as you look out at kind of a health pyramid, liken it to those old food pyramids that we used to have, right? Like eat this many servings of this and this and this. I would put physical health at the bottom, foundational. If you are physically healthier, you will feel better, everything. It's better to be strong than weak, better to be healthy than sick. These are said without judgment. These are said as facts, right? At the top of the health pyramid, you put mental health. I'll put spiritual health and anything that goes on in your coconut upstairs, mental health, right? In the middle, and not talked about at all, is social health. What is the connectivity to anything, right? I mean, it's our connection to other people. What are you going to think about on your deathbed? You're not going to think about how many push-ups you could do, and you're not going to think about, your mental acuity for processing, data in spreadsheets and bank account numbers and all that stuff. It's going to be about the relationships that you formed. And so that is a social process. You need to be around other people to deepen those relationships, do more things with them. And sometimes they're hard. I mean, traveling's hard too, right? I mean, there's lots of ways to do this stuff. It doesn't have to be just exercise. Just be more active. That's what I kind of tell myself, is to have a bias for activity. Say yes, right? And if you're not getting enough invites, then invite somebody else, right? Nobody needs anybody anymore, or so we think. So you don't invite people. You don't ask for help. You don't, it's like it used to be that you go to the neighbor to ask for sugar or something or whatever. If you're out of it now, it's like, oh, I'll be right back from the store. 45 minutes of your life later, it's done. You could have gone next door and borrowed some damn sugar. You just have to knock on the door.
Yeah.
Or if not sugar, pick something healthier, people, right? Whatever, whatever the case may be. But, it's just that kind of side of it. And when you start to think in terms of that, what do you want to invest in? The time with your family, that's your most important community, right? And then you branch out from there and, show me your calendar and your bank account, and I'll tell you what really matters to you.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. And you guys have a somewhat recent partnership with CrossFit. They've come up a couple of times in this conversation. Maybe outline that for us. Like, what was the impetus for it, and what are you guys doing with them?
Well, proudly, we've been associated with CrossFit since the beginning, those early days of Fight Club with backpacks. I mean, there was a fair amount of outbound hustle for me and then a couple more people as it grew just a little bit, where if we were going to a city, say, who are the kind of people that'll do this weird Fight Club stuff? And so we made a point to contact every CrossFit Box owner via any way that we could, Facebook, call the gym, whatever the case may be, hey, we're doing this thing. We'd love for you to show up. I think it'd be good for your box and all of this stuff. And so in so many ways, GoRuck was kind of built on one community, CrossFit, showing up to do this community building thing that we were putting on. And I was really comfortable in that world. I mean, I had started doing CrossFit in 2007, 2008 in the special forces qualification course. Very simple. We were in a dirt field. It was dark out. There was a lot of push-ups and pull-up bars, and we had heavy rucksacks and makeshift sandbags, and there's rucks in the middle. There's runs and sprints and all that stuff. It's very simple. And, that was new back then. It wasn't just go in the gym and go for a run, kind of what it was, but that didn't apply quite as much. So there's really, as I think back to CrossFit and doing that where I was at that point in my life, there's no other brand that has that level of impact on my life. Like a lot of the guys that I trained with are not here anymore. We did CrossFit again. They died in war, right? A war that I was also serving. And so there's just this kind of, we bonded together through physical training and fitness. We got to know each other and love each other. And CrossFit was a part of that component. And so that's sacred to me, the time that we spent doing that. And so we've been around CrossFit for a long time. And CrossFit headquarters, it was always kind of a complicated thing. I didn't really know how to deal or work with it. And we had our gear and that was cool. And it was like, hey, we're just sort of around and we're supporters of anything that's social fitness, community building, do hard stuff. And, Dave Castro put rucking in the games in 2019. That was kind of our first exposure really to inside of CrossFit HQ universe. And, Bill and Katie at Rogue have been friends of ours for a really long time, like well before that, like from the early days out of Columbus. Like the Rogue headquarters is like an hour and 15 minutes from where my dad lives, where I was born, right? So I've been up there a bunch and they're fantastic people and friends. And so, sometimes life is, hey, you've got to kind of force something or you've got to keep knocking on doors and hustle and all this. The way that CrossFit came about was, I kind of go back with Don as well. Don Fowler, the CEO, military guy. We've kind of been in the same circles. We knew each other. And CrossFit all of a sudden was looking for a new partner for the games and the athletes and all of the stuff that they're doing. And, we had developed a great pair of shoes that happens to work fantastically for CrossFit, the ballistic trainers, and which allows some business upside, right? To say, hey, we can help monetize this and figure out a partnership around that. And, the apparel is also like, we can do that. And, the brand's good, right? The brand's aligned, the people aligned. So then, it's never as simple as, okay, this should work out. That's not how the world goes around, right? So we had to talk with them about how to form a true partnership because we don't have a bunch of other people's money. In fact, we have zero other people's money and we've never had any of other people's money. So we have to kind of do things a little bit more creatively, buy with and through partners, which is where I come from as a Green Beret. And that it happened remarkably fast though. And, it was mostly because they're easy to talk to and the culture of our places is similar. And so it made it, when you get, say you're working with someone or you're forced to work with someone and you see their name pop up on your phone, it's such a telling moment, right? You can't lie to yourself. You can't lie. Are you excited that this person is calling or is this like, this is going to be just a drain? And, CrossFit and Don and that crew, I look forward to chatting with them and working with them. And it's always kind of, how can we serve this higher mission together? And, then you got to build a good business model around it. And we have, and we're really happy that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And that's really funny about like the cell phone test, right? When someone's name pops up, we used to do it in the gym when we kind of evaluate, our clients is like, what's the first thing that pops out in your head when you see them walk into the gym, right? And they come through that front.
Yeah.
Are you smiling? Are you excited? Are you like ducking into the office? Like, what is it? It's just a really
run away. Like they're going to talk to you. They're going to make your ears bleed. They're going to talk at you so much.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be,
Yeah, whatever. Or they're just downer, right? Some people just don't have the energy
someone's
for it.
positive, right?
Oh man, great.
Positive force, you just can't kind of wait to be around it. And great.
Yeah, yeah, it is great. When you're talking to the fitness industry here, and this is one of the last things I always like to cover, Jason, is like, what are the challenges that you're facing currently at GoRuck? And then as an industry, how can we help you?
I mean, look, we have a big mission, and it's one that we believe in deeply, and it's tied to, how we live our lives. And, are we an active group of people? Are we healthy? And I don't just mean numbers at the doctor's office, although those are not headed in the right direction. I mean, how do we kind of reclaim the path that we're supposed to be on? Like for each of us individually, and then that becomes kind of collective. How do we have more kind of national moments of like, hey, we're in this together. And so, instead of trying to become some, smoke and mirrors politician or something, we're just kind of starting at a grassroots level and saying, hey, work out with the person next to you. Put some weight on your back or don't, right? Go play pickleball. Do something, right? Do something. Like get more active because there's so much consumption of other people's algorithms and media right now. And it's a very slippery slope. Like we are free. We are free to stare at our phones all day long, and we're free to live the life that we're meant to lead. And you only have so much time, and it's sacred and practice. And so the choices that we make that determine the outcomes, right? You don't, the world has a vote. You don't 100% of us are going to die someday, right? But we have the time that we have and make the most of it. So the biggest threat to our mission is just this kind of inactivity and the kind of Debbie Downer attitude and just like almost people silently giving up on too much. I think, and I don't say this to be pessimistic. I'm extremely optimistic. It's going to take us kind of living the life without, like, I don't want to stand up and preach. I just want to kind of share the stories that are working for us and throw parties that people want to show up to. We have to start meeting people and inviting people to things that they're willing to show up for. And we got to get a little bit outside of the norm. And since the beginning of time, the norm was probably not a great place to be. And I think now is no different. When you look in the context of history, like we have been a lot more divided than we are right now. There was, the Civil War, right? A lot more divisive in the Civil War. It wasn't that long ago either, right? There was, the 60s and the 70s, people getting just gunned down in the streets, right? I mean, race riots all the time, not to downplay anything that's gone on now. It's very serious, but there's been real times of social unrest that has led to massive amounts of violence, right? And just like, okay, everything's not great. Welcome to it. What can we do? What can we do? Like, be a good neighbor, be a good husband or a good wife, or, I live in the South, right? Like open the door for somebody, hold it open, right? It's okay. It can be okay. It's be, and take care of yourself, right? Like that's it's a weird thing with my background because there's this virtue of selflessness, but you also have to maintain the machine. You have to take care of yourself to take care of others. It's like in the airplane as a kid, I never understood. They're like, apply the mask to yourself first and then your child. I remember as a kid, I'm like, shouldn't you put the mask on me first? Right. When I was a kid and you become an adult and you're like, okay, I get it. I would rather put the mask on my kid first, but I have to take care of myself as well in order to take care of others. And that's for each of us to figure out kind of what that means. But I think it's just really important to become really to remember how much of a gift this is and to have fun doing it. And we're kind of just out and after that.
Yeah, well said, Jason. And I urge people to. One of the things I love about where I live now is this. It's small. Whitefish, Montana is small. We have 7,000 people in the winter. This swells up to 15,000 in the summer, so it's even then it's relatively small. But the local hyper localization of the community, right? Like people really focus on their neighbors and what's going on in the community, local government, and things like that. And I think that's something. Even if you live in New York City, you can still be hyper local and work with people and just be a better community member. So I think that's something you guys provide some glue with when doing that. So I applaud you guys. And Jason, thank you so much for this. If people want to get a hold of you, Jason, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. You?
Yeah, I don't know. My internet just dropped, but I think it was my internet.
Yeah, you froze on me. You never know, man. Ghost in the machine. But yeah, you froze
Yeah.
on me. So
Yeah. Well, let's we'll take it up from there. We'll wrap it up there. Jason, I really appreciate you coming on. I loved hearing the Go Ruck story. There's a lot that I actually didn't know. So it was really cool to learn. And I think you guys are doing great stuff. And like I was saying, I don't know if it got caught in the recording, but we lost power. You guys provided glue, right? To help communities build and people to form strong relationships. So I love what you're doing. I know a lot of people in the industry, especially on the media side, really appreciate what you guys are doing. So if people want to get hold of you, or if they want to partner, or if they just want to get involved, there a direction you'd like to send them online?
I mean, we're at GoRuck at pretty much all the things. You can email us. It'll funnel to the right place. Team at GoRuck. All the things.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason McCarthy.
Thanks for having me, man.